Hello. Another week, another big round of changes, or rather, not too big because I didn't have a ton of time this week, but I spent a lot of this week polishing, implementing some sounds. The guy that's doing sounds made over the last week, though that's all going to change. It's not really ready to be shown off. So I've got a couple of new abilities to show off. As well as I added some polish to some stuff, added some other stuff, so let's get started. So the first thing that I want to show off is that I redid the UI a bit. So as you can see now, the missile counter is directly on the gun. Oh, and there's a new gun model. Right now you can't really see it too well because of the lighting, but yeah, it's just a big cylinder. It's kind of hollow on the inside. I actually modeled it myself, and I tried texturing it, but as it turns out, texturing is not very easy. I've also redone, or started to redo, the power-ups that you pick up. So as you can see, I've got this little platform here. It's got a spotlight over it, and then this is the jump power-up. And I actually, see if you can figure out where I took the UI from. Well, let's walk up and pick it up. Forgot to remove the crosshair there, and maybe remove the gun when that shows up. But essentially, you've got a description, a title, and a image of what the upgrade itself looks like, which, you know, looks okay. And then you click to continue. So that's the new upgrade UI. You can see in the next room where you pick up the gun. Very similar. Oh, whoops, I forgot to set the layer on the gun to be higher than that pillar. Anyway, added some description, some light flavor text and stuff like that. And then, of course, in the next room, we've got a thruster for the dash. And it doesn't look perfect or anything like that, but I like the little animation. I probably have to dim the screen a little bit when that happens. That might make it look a little bit nicer. And obviously the gun is still bobbing a bit, which is a bug. I'll fix that later too. I also added a gun bob, so now as you can tell, it makes you look more, you can tell when you're moving, and especially when you're walking into walls, you can see the gun moving, so it looks a little bit nicer, although I'm not super happy with the gun bob right now. When you dash is still not complete, but I added a feedback with the gun itself. As you can see, you dash to the left or right, the gun kind of turns. You dash forward, the gun turns forward, dash backwards, same thing. I'll probably smooth it out a bit so it looks a little bit nicer. Yeah, my audio buddy actually created a bunch of sounds for the game, or not a bunch, a couple, but gave him some feedback and he's gone back to the drawing board. You can't hear it right now. Maybe you can through my headphones, I don't know. It doesn't sound super great yet because he figured that he would do like an 8-bit sort of thing, and that definitely does not fit what I'm trying to go for. I also fixed a couple of things, including recoded the dash completely. Before it was based on position, now it's based on velocity. So it's a lot less buggy, like it won't accidentally go through walls or anything like that. And it feels really nice to use, even though there's a cooldown on it. I might shorten that cooldown. But yeah, I fixed a bug with the super charge where it wasn't launching you properly, and now it behaves like a proper rocket jump. So you shoot it and you gain some height, and it feels really awesome to use. And you've got a lot of air control, and of course when you combine that with the glide, you will be able to go in long distances. You're actually able to basically fly right now, because if you use the super jump and then glide and then use it again, you can infinitely stay in the air. I don't know if I want to change that or not, but that's like a super late game thing, because I think glide is probably one of the last things that you'll be unlocking. Cool. So what else? Right, the new upgrades and abilities. So first off, I created a brand new area for testing. I call it the arena. It's just a big room, and I can use the numpad to basically spawn all the enemies that I have. So let's go ahead and spawn a couple of black holes, which spawn these little enemies here. So I created this actual item called a black hole gun, or black hole, I don't know what you call it yet. What did I call it? Black hole something. I don't remember. But if I shoot it out, you'll see what happens here. These are affected by too much gravity and won't work very well. But as you can see, all the enemies will now clump to it for a few seconds, allowing you to destroy it more easily. Which is cool. I've also created a separate kind of missile. I call it the Flechette. Is that how you pronounce it? Flechette Missile. So here you've got a normal missile. Let me destroy these. So here you've got a normal missile, and it's not very exciting. I still have not polished this at all. But if you toggle your other missile, which there's no UI for yet, you shoot a Flechette Missile, and it works kind of like Roadhog's in Overwatch. Right click, if you've ever played that, where the missile shoots out for a second, and then it splits into a bunch of different smaller Flechette rounds, although right now they just look like missiles, which do less damage, but the missile actually does more damage overall, and it's a random spread, so it's kind of like a shotgun in that regard. It'll be more for, and I'm going to make it so that the spread is bigger based on the distance, so it's more for, somewhat close range. And each bullet, I think, does 1 damage, and there's 30 of them at once, so it's a big chunk of damage. Cool, so what else? Tutorial text, Muzzle Flash. I had a little bit of Muzzle Flash, as you can see when you shoot. Definitely need to change that color because I made the bullet blue. But now there's like nice feedback for when you shoot. And it's not just like the ball appearing. Though I might tone down the size of the muzzle flash, which doesn't look that great. Yeah, I think that's actually just about it for this week. There's not much else. Like I said, I didn't have that much time this week, but this week I should have more time. And again, I'm going to be focusing on polishing all the abilities in order. So next up, I'm going to be finishing off Dash, where I'm going to add, instead of this like kind of faded out thing going towards the screen, which looks like crap from left to right, I'm just going to make it a sort of you can't see me pointing to the screen, but border around the screen. So very similar effect, but just it fades in and out as you dash. It'll be easier to show than explain. Then I've got a polish off glide, which I think is very close to final. It doesn't need a lot of effects. Ultra Cannon is going to need more oomph to it right now. As you can see, it just sort of appears and then disappears, and there's no lighting or anything like that. So I've got to make that look nicer, and maybe with a little bit of forceful knockback. The cannon, the gun itself doesn't move at all when you shoot, so that needs to change. Shield spawner, I'm going to need a custom model for that. Which hotkey was that? That's this. So right now it's just a square. I'll probably make it a little bit curved. Maybe add some trails to it so that it looks kind of cool as it moves. A little bit of a gas trail, maybe something like that. Combat shield needs to change big time. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do to it yet, but right now, as you can see, I just added a couple particles to notify you when it's on. I might like tint the screen a little bit, or maybe something else. I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet. Missile launcher. I've got to make the missile like spawn a trail of some kind and add some sort of orange particle effect to show some kind of rocket or simulate a rocket, as well as change the explosion to not be blue and make it like red, so that it doesn't look exactly the same as this explosion. And then finally, gravity bomb. Maybe add some distortion, although this is tricky because I'm not super familiar with shaders in Unity, but add some distortion around the bomb itself, add a custom model, and then polish it off to make it work properly. As you can see, like if enemies had high velocity, they wouldn't necessarily get attracted to it. Let me show it off one more time, but basically if I shoot it right here, those enemies were moving too fast to get attracted to it, but if I do it once more, it sort of worked there. It's not too bad. And it's unlimited use based on your energy, so I don't feel too bad about it not being like perfect. But I definitely do want to make it work somewhat. Maybe I'll just change the velocity of the enemies it affects instead of adding force. Yeah, so that's it for this week. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing for the next week. Let me know if there's any feedback that you have or whatever. Yeah. And now I'm going to spawn a whole bunch of enemies. That's all.